welcome. It's your man, God of Docs, back with another episode of The Audible. As we continue our preseason NFL breakdowns of each and every team in the NFL for the upcoming season, we have now. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not looking forward to doing this particular show on this particular team because I cannot stand the Philadelphia Eagles. But I have to be the objective analyst sometimes and break down what I'm seeing, my predictions and whatnot. Hope everybody's had a good day. I know that I have. Hope everybody, we halfway through the week, man. It's hump day. This week we have been really focusing on the NFC East. Next week will be the AFC East, but for towards this week, we've started out with the Washington Redskins. I gave you my overview of that team, some of the moves they made, some of the moves they didn't make. And I've also yesterday, if you were tuned in, if not, it's always up on the channel. I knew you was gonna be here, Ms. Murph. I knew you was gonna be here for this one. It's gonna be a tough show for me, probably the toughest shows I've ever done because I have to be objectional, with the Eagles. But yeah, yesterday we talked about the New York Giants. I gave you my predictions on them. As I stated early in the week, NFC East is probably one of the best divisions in football. And each team in this division made improvements this offseason. And it's hard to not look at the Philadelphia Eagles as being one of the biggest winners of the offseason when I'm talking about free agency, being able to retain certain players in the draft. And we're going to talk about it. As we kind of, break down each and all of these teams, I always tell you, it begins and ends with the quarterback. And the Philadelphia Eagles have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He proved that last season with could have been an MVP season. If he'd have won it, I don't think anybody would argue. And I'm talking about the one Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, former Alabama quarterback. I'm not going to give him credit for Oklahoma Road Tide. But former Alabama quarterback, Jalen Hurts really blossomed, progressed, and dramatically. I don't think anybody saw Jalen Hurts having the season that he had last season. The question is, will he be able to reproduce the season that he had? I think if they're able to keep the same offensive scheme in place, he might have some similar success. But if you've been keeping up with football this offseason, if you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan, offensive coordinator Shane Steichen is now head coach in Indianapolis. So you have a new coordinator. Is the new coordinator going to come in and try to add his own wrinkles, add his own touches? He's going to be running the same scheme that was so successful for them last year. Philadelphia, under the tutelage of Shane Steichen, Philadelphia and Jalen Hurts really blossom on the offensive side of the ball. And probably the most important person, I'm just going to kind of get this out of the way, probably the most important person in that organization. It's got to be GM Roseman, Howard Roseman, able to not only navigate the waters of free agency, keeping a talented team, but also being aggressive when he needs to be aggressive in the draft, picking guys that not only fit their scheme and the mentality that they wanted to have in the organization, but also looking ahead towards the future. Guys get older. You need guys to replace them. You understand contract situations being what it is. Hey, the NFL is a business. Even though you would like to bring back everybody, especially when you had a team that made a Super Bowl run the previous season, sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes it's just not possible. But Howard Roseman has been able to navigate, especially over the last 3 years, to not only bring in key pieces during the draft, as far as guys they've drafted, and free agency, but just with an eye towards the future, and being cost effective when he needs to be, letting guys go when they needed to be let go, and keeping the organization not only afloat but flourishing. Anybody that doesn't have Philadelphia as one of the Super Bowl favorites this upcoming season is got to be smoking crack. And it just so happens here I am talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, and here comes Gator Girl talking about my boys. Don't worry, Cowboys get the spotlight tomorrow, and I'm going to shine a very big spotlight on my boys. But we're focusing in on the Philadelphia Eagles this evening. I mean, let me kind of do this because I said I was going to start doing this at the beginning of the shows. Anybody that wants to join in on the conversation can. If not, I get up here and do my spiel. It doesn't matter to me. But yeah, when we talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, it's hard not to have them as one of the Super Bowl favorites. Yes, I am a Cowboys fan. Yes, I hope my boys win the division and win the Super Bowl. But I got to be an analyst sometimes. And Philadelphia, with the improvements that they've made, and it's hard to kind of look at that, considering this team made the Super Bowl run, but they actually got better in some spots. And you gotta lay a lot of the credit to Roseman. Roseman is able to bring in players. How do you find these? How do Philadelphia, especially during the draft, Philadelphia finds a way to get players drop to them that wouldn't normally drop in most other seasons, but this happened to drop to them, and it's like a perfect fit. But we're going to kind of break down the Philadelphia Eagles, team going forward this season. Like I said, you have Jalen Hurts, the new $55 million man. Kudos to him for getting his contract. He worked for it. He earned it. I think Jalen Hurts is going to have, like I said, a similar season. I think what they have in place. Hopefully, the new offensive coordinator doesn't come in and try to do anything too radical to it. Maybe add a little tweak here, a little tweak there. But I like how the offensive coordinator last year, Shane Steichen, was able to take advantage of the gifts that Jalen Hurts has. Wasn't going to, keep him in the pocket being a standstill quarterback. Understand his quarterback is able to run. Jalen Hurts is one of the best running quarterbacks in league history, just based off the stats. The season that he had last year, but also putting playmakers around him. Not being so dependent. And if you look at the offense, how Philadelphia runs it, and when I think of a similar type offense and how it kind of differs, I kind of look at the Baltimore Ravens. You have a mobile quarterback who's able to throw the ball in certain spots, that has a strong enough arm to stand in the pocket, but it's also mobile. But the difference between a Baltimore and a Philadelphia is Philadelphia went out and got weapons for their quarterback. Wasn't going to allow teams to load up the box, 7 to 8 guys, sometimes 9 guys in the box. Wasn't going to do that. Went out and got AJ Brown last offseason, and like I said, made some moves with free agents, and we're going to kind of talk about it. I like the fact that they brought in Marcus Mariota to be the backup. I think he fits. I think he's able to run the similar scheme in the event that Jalen Hurts gets hurt. Hope that doesn't happen. Because when we beat them, I want them to be at 100%. I don't want no excuses. Come on, God. Come on now. Yeah. Be objective. Yeah, okay. Take the fandom out of it. But I like bringing in Marcus Mariota, and I do like the additions they made to the running back room. They let Miles Sanders go, let Miles Sanders work. Miles Sanders is now projected to start in running back for the Carolina Panthers. Kudos to him. Philadelphia said, we're not going to pay you. We're going to bring guys in that are cost effective. And I like the fact that they brought in Rashard Penny, former running back for the Seattle Seahawks. Has a bit of an injury history, but when he's healthy, can be an effective running back in this league. I also like the fact that they brought in, and I don't know how they pulled this off, brought in DeAndre Swift, former Georgia, and it seems like Philadelphia is like Georgia North now, but former running back for the Detroit Lions, brought him in. I think that gives them a nice 1-2 punch at the top of the running back room as far as starter and backup. You can start Rashard Penny, you can start DeAndre Swift. Both of them have experience in that position. Then you also still have Boston Scott, have Kenneth Gainwell, more of the third down type running back. So I like the running back room for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that's going to you're still going to have success, maybe not individual success, but when you put all those guys together, I think they're going to be able to not only match but possibly exceed the production they got last year from Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders kind of tailed off at the end of the season. I don't know if it was because of the contract situation. I don't know if it was because of health. But I don't really think he maybe got like 2 or 3 touches in the Super Bowl. So they was already kind of phasing him out of the offense. When we talk about wide receivers, AJ Brown is what I call a legitimate number 1 receiver. AJ Brown coming over from the Tennessee Titans last year really allowed Jalen Hurts and his offense to really explode. They already had Devontae Smith in, but Devontae Smith on some teams could be a number 1, but I think he's has grown comfortable in the role of a good number 2. I think he's going to continue to improve. He's still a young wide receiver, roll tide, still a young wide receiver, very good at route running. I think he's going to get a lot better at route running. Like I said, in most offenses, Smith could be looked at as the number one, but AJ Brown is supplemented right now is the true number one. You saw how effective he was working with Jalen Hurts, and how that offense was able to be explosive throughout the entire season. You saw how AJ Brown was being explosive in the Super Bowl. So I do like the wide receiver room. Like I said, Philadelphia, I'm not a fan of this team. I don't know how many times I have to say it, but when you look at the roster, it's hard. It's hard to really find a lot of holes um with this team. And then as we kind of move on with the rest of the offense, I do like Dallas Goedert at tight end. Um, when healthy, allows Jalen Hurts a good safety option. And Dallas Goedert is a very good tight end, nonetheless, whether he was playing with Philadelphia or not, be a very good tight end. Nonetheless, probably the strength of the offense. And, there's a lot of pluses when you look at the offense. Probably the strength of this offense is they have arguably, you can make a case for a couple other teams, but they have arguably the best overall offensive line from tackle to guard to center, have probably the best offensive line in the NFL. It's hard to find another team. You can probably make a case for San Francisco having a good strong line. It's hard to find other teams that have a good, solid veteran offensive line. They ended up bringing in some young pieces. I don't know how much time they're going to get as far as playing, because that offensive line for Philadelphia tends to stay healthy in the key positions, but they do have one of the best offensive lines, and I think that's going to allow this offense to continue on the track that they were last year. Like I said, biggest question, if you're going to have any about the offense, I don't have any questions about personnel that they have. Biggest question I have as far as the offense is concerned is the offensive coordinator. What is he going to really try to do with this offense? Is he going to try to bring in his own system and try to implement that, or keep the system that is already in place, shown to be proven to be successful, and gotten this team to the Super Bowl? I think the head coach is going to kind of pull him in. And if he's going to be, continue to be the offensive coordinator, he's going to have to kind of slip stuff in here and there, slowly kind of mold it to his kind of offense. But it's no gripes. It's no, I can't really pick apart the personnel, because I like what I'm seeing. Even when you were talking about, the backup, I like Marcus Mariota. I think Mariota, with this amount of talent around him, the offensive line that he has around him, and the potential of that running game, Mariota could possibly get this team, with the talent that they have on both sides of the ball, can possibly get this team to the playoffs. Jalen Hurts is just that much better of a quarterback, and not only get a team to the playoffs, and show he can get a team to a Super Bowl and put a team in a position to possibly win a Super Bowl. I think the pressure is going to be on a little bit more this year, considering when you look at their schedule, non-conference schedule that they have. I think they have the Chiefs on the non-conference schedule in the Super Bowl rematch. Will they be able to have the same kind of record? It's possible. It's possible. Like I said, I like what I see on offense. The defensive side of the ball, it is a couple question marks, but it's not many. It's not many. Like I started out the show, if you was here, Howard Roseman, GM, is able to find guys, plug guys in, and draft very, very well. When you talk about the recent draft picks that it had, especially on the defensive side of the ball, to be able to bring in a monster of a defensive tackle last season with Jordan Davis for the University of Georgia, to bring in Jalen Carter. I'm going to talk about Jalen Carter in just a second. Another very talented defensive tackle, defensive lineman from Georgia, to bring in, with the eye towards the future, to bring in an athlete like a Nolan Smith this season. Also to have a Nakobe Dean. They draft very, very, very well. But we're going to kind of do a position by position breakdown. As much as I like the defense, like I said, it's a question mark, probably at the linebacker position, because it's a lot of unproven talent. But if the defensive line is able to perform at the level they were last year, as far as the pass rush, I think Philadelphia was top 5 in the league when we're talking about total defense, top 5 in the league when we're talking about total sacks. A lot of that has to do with the pressure they was able to generate up front. You still have Fletcher Cox in-house, still a very viable defensive tackle in this league. Now, will we see Jordan Davis take off in his second year? Has the physical gifts to do so. But like I said, Howard Roseman did an excellent job to get a player like Jalen Carter, who was possibly looked at, if he didn't have all the off-field shenanigans and didn't have a very poor pro day, was looked at as a possible top 5 pick in the draft. To have him drop down to them and able to get him. So even if Jordan Davis is not taking that leap, you have another highly touted prospect in Jalen Carter. The question I have about Jalen Carter, based off his pro day and the stuff that's going on, as far as the situation that happened at Georgia, as far as the car accident. Um, I wasn't too happy about the pro day performance of Jalen Carter. Here it is, Jalen Carter. Pro days, combines, is a way for a lot of players to make their money. And I think you cost yourself, and that's what caused him to kind of slip down the board. People are going to be looking at you like how, when they look at pro days, the numbers look good, the 40 times and all that stuff. But people are really kind of, it's a character thing too. It's not just your on-field performance, it's a character thing. That they look at how poorly he performed, and it was like, does this guy really want it? Is his head going to be in the game? Because talent wise, when talking about the Georgia defense over the past couple of years, Jalen Carter was the best player on those championship teams. Was the best player on the defensive side of the ball on the championship teams, talent wise. But is he going to be motivated? Is he going to be comfortable with possibly being a rotational player for an extended period of time? Because Fletcher Cox, unless he retires within the next year, is kind of penciled in as a starter. Jordan Davis, the big monster defensive tackle, is penciled in as a starter. Is Jalen Carter going to be happy with playing a rotational role? Is he going to be motivated now that he's kind of got the money? I'm waiting to see. But it's like I said, it's not much to really pick apart when we're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles as far as talent on the field. I do like having Hassan Reddick on the outside, like having Josh Sweat opposite of him. They still have Derek Barnett in house. They have Brandon Graham, veteran defensive ends who are able to fit into that rotation to still create pressure, still be very good against the run. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith kind of shot up a lot of draft boards, with his performance at the combine, performance at pro day. He really shot up. You don't find too many linebackers. He's a little bit on the smaller side as far as size is concerned, but you don't really find a lot of linebackers that run a 4-3. You just don't find that many linebackers that move like that. So I'm curious to see will they have him more in a speed rusher role, or will he be more of a coverage guy? He's talented enough to do both. But if I'm Philadelphia, that I'm looking at the talent that I have along the defensive line, the talent I have alongside the edge, I'm maybe moving Nolan Smith around more of a chess piece, more I wouldn't necessarily put him at rush end. But I think, if you're going to put him in some blitz packages, I think he can be successful with that. I think he can be successful in pass coverage, limited pass coverage. I wouldn't. He's a talented player. I watched him a lot at Georgia last year. Very talented player. I mean, Nolan Smith athletically could play, safety in some sub packages for this team. I mean, he's that talented of a player. I do like him being picked up. When we look at the rest of the linebacking core, you have Nick Moreau. He's okay. N'Kobe Dean, another former Bulldog, really, had some injuries last season. Really didn't really take off. So I mean, if you're going to pick apart any position on this team, you got to be looking at linebacker. That was a position they were trying to strengthen during the offseason, a position they were trying to strengthen during the draft. I think they did okay at that position, but they didn't really need to do too much. It wasn't like they had very poor linebacker play. They just wanted, needed better linebacker play. You saw those linebackers really kind of get exposed, especially in the Super Bowl, as far as like their ability to play pass coverage and be able to get into those gaps as far as run defense is concerned. But I think they did okay. I think they did okay. As much as I could rave about the defensive line, I can rave just as much about that back end. Talking about the secondary, was able to keep Darius Slay, was able to keep Bradbury in house. I do like Avonte Maddox as the slot corner, but the player that they drafted, Keely Ringo, I'm very curious to see um, how he fits into that rotation at third and fourth cornerback. Keely Ringo started out the season last year at the University of Georgia, projected as the number one corner going into the season. Kind of struggled a little bit in spots. Um, had a couple bad moments, bad games, and slid down the draft board. And Philadelphia has an eye for talent. Howard Roseman, if nothing else, has an eye for talent. And if you really think about it, a lot of the guys that they draft not only are able to fit in as far as the position needs, but a lot of the guys that they draft come from winning college football programs. And I think bringing in guys that come from winning type programs that they have that mentality of, that taste of success. When you think, I mean, we really look at, I mean, let's break down the team. Jalen Hurts, very successful programs, Oklahoma, and primarily the Tide, college football, DeAndre Swift, Georgia, Devontae Smith, Alabama. I mean, you have a lot of guys that come from winning programs, and that is a key thing I think a lot of people miss. Bringing in guys that know how can I put it? Develop winning habits. That's what I'm looking for. Have already developed winning habits. Know what it's like to put in the work in practice and what that looks like producing on the field. But I'm curious to see Ringo. I think Ringo has an opportunity to maybe steal the slot position. Will be definitely out there in the dime packages for sure. But I think Keely Ringo, with his size, his physicality on the outside, if Bradbury or Slade kind of struggles, I can see Ringo getting some burn. I don't think he starts unless the guy gets injured, but I do like having him in the rotation. Probably the question mark you got to have if you're going to have any with the back end is probably the safety position. They have decent safeties in Blankenship and Sidney Brown. Have Terrell Edmonds, formerly of I want to say Pittsburgh Steelers, that drafted him when he came into the league. But they're okay. Not necessarily ball hawks. They are going to miss C.J. Gardner Johnson, who they had last season. Very usable player as far as being able to move into different spots. They're going to miss that, and a possible Javon Hargrave. I was surprised they kind of let him go. But it came down to a money thing. He found himself in a very good situation in San Francisco. They didn't really lose a lot as far as talent. They couldn't be replaced. They already had guys in place. Like I said, Jordan Davis was already in house because they were looking at the eventual retirement or possible free agency move of a Hargrave. They already had guys in place. I like Philadelphia going into the new year. Question I have is how are they going to react when the target is on your back? I don't think anybody had the Philadelphia Eagles, getting to the Super Bowl at the beginning of the season. I think, we had Philadelphia as looked at as one of the better teams in the NFC last season, but I don't think anybody had them as their presumptive Super Bowl pick. And depending on who you talk to, as far as analysts and pundits, they're not really considered the Super Bowl favorite in some people's opinion this season. I think a lot of people are kind of looking at the quarterback situation out in San Francisco, see how that plays out. Because San Francisco matches up, if not better, in a lot of spots as far as talent is concerned. So, you have people that are picking San Francisco to be NFC representative this upcoming season. I wouldn't be surprised if, and I'm going to put a big if on it, I wouldn't be surprised if Philadelphia repeats as NFC East Division champions and makes a run to the conference championship game. I wouldn't be surprised. It wouldn't, because I like the progression of Jalen Hurts. I think he's going to continue to get better. Already, whether I'm a Cowboys fan or not, I like Jalen Hurts. If you know his story, it's hard not to like dude. And Roll Tide, all that good stuff. But I think Jalen Hurts gets better this year. I think Devontae Smith gets better this year. I think the running back group that they have is going to be able to be successful. And they have one of the better offensive lines, so it's hard to not be successful when you have an offensive line as talented as that. Oftentimes you hear me talk when I'm talking about these teams is what they look like in the trenches along the offensive defensive lines. The best teams in the league have very good units at those key positions. It's like football is one in the trenches. Football is one in the trenches. If you can't block or you can't get penetration on the defensive side of the ball, it's going to be a struggle for you in this league. And like I said, when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles talent wise, I mean, it's hard not to put them in that same category they were last year as being a force in this league. Like I said, I could see them making a run to the conference championship. Now, the question of the day is, do I have Philadelphia winning the division? You're gonna have to stay tuned tomorrow to get the answer to that. You're gonna have to stay tuned tomorrow to get the answer to that because, like I said, this division overall is strong. I think New York got a little bit better. I think Washington got a little bit better. I think Dallas got a little bit better. But at the same time, Philadelphia got a little bit better. Will they be able to repeat um, the success that they had last year? Will the loss of the offensive coordinator have an effect on the offense going forward? Will the young players that they drafted on the defensive side of the ball be able to produce at a level that this defense is used to producing on a yearly basis? Will Jordan Davis, will Jalen Carter, will N'Kobe Dean, will Nolan Smith, will Ringo, these Georgia players that they brought in, will they be able to push this team over the top, not only getting to a Super Bowl, but winning the Super Bowl? I mean, they came within a great Patrick Mahomes scramble late in the fourth quarter of being in a position to win the game. Will it be a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover? We've seen that. I'm not sure, but I do see this team definitely get into the playoffs. Um, do I have them winning the division? Like I said, you got to stay tuned tomorrow. You got to stay tuned tomorrow because we'll be talking about America's team, the greatest team on God's green earth, greatest team, the organization in the land of sports. We'll be talking about the Dallas Cowboys tomorrow as we wrap up the NFC East. Also tune in Friday. I'm probably scheduled around 8 o'clock. We're going to do a special episode when we're talking about racism in sports. It's been events over the last, especially events over the last 10 years that have really kind of shown a light on how prevalent racism is in sports. And we're going to kind of talk about that on Friday, 8 o'clock. Make sure you tune in for that particular show. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, I'm kind of getting my notes together because I don't want to be giving inaccurate info. Y'all know how I am. I don't like to give inaccurate information. But I will be getting my notes together for that show. Like I said, 8 o'clock on Friday, we'll be doing that. Hopefully that show don't run too long because I got some other stuff playing. But like you said, next week, AFC East, we'll be diving into that division. If you have a suggestion for the week after, please let me know, or if I haven't gotten to your team, let me know. And we can get them into the rotation a little bit sooner than usual. As always, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. It's always appreciated. Remember, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Training camp is getting hot and heavy. We'll be having it's news coming out as far as some of these battles for quarterback and other position battles that are coming out. We will be kind of keeping you up to date on that. Major injury, we'll be kind of keeping you up on that also as we get ready for the new season. Also be on the lookout. I got to look at the calendar, but we will be doing a college football special. Probably be doing it on a particular Saturday this month. So as we kind of get ready for kickoff with college football, I want to kind of get into that. Some of the news that's coming out as far as that, what teams are looking like. Roll Tide, roll Tide, roll goddamn Tide. Old Saint Nick. But anyway, as always, like I said, appreciate everybody for tuning in. Let me kind of get up out of here, man. I like to try to keep these particular shows short. Remember to like, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. Leave comments, thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever. It's always appreciated. Let's get out of here with a phrase that pays around here. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but every time you learn. And I'm out.